Good morning, everyone. Today we are examining Ezekiel chapter 29. And in Ezekiel 29, God is going to send a message to Pharaoh, the king of Egypt, or the ruler of Egypt. And I want us to pull out a couple of different things from this particular chapter. One of them is application wise, and one of them is a historical matter that I want us to notice. And so the first one is found in verse 3, and it's again stated in verse number 9. And that is the reason why God says he is doing this, or one of the reasons why God says that he is going to bring judgment upon the people of Egypt. In verse 3 it says, "Thus says the Lord God, Behold, I am against you, O Pharaoh, king of Egypt, O great monster who lies in the midst of his rivers, who has said, My river is my own, I have made it for myself." Again, when you drop down to verse number 9, he says, "And the land of Egypt shall become desolate and waste. Then they will know that I am the Lord, because he said, The river is mine, and I have made it." Here you have a statement a couple of different times in this chapter that God is going to bring out against Pharaoh about Pharaoh's pride. Pharaoh doesn't believe that he needs God, doesn't believe that there is any reason for God as far as the God of Israel, but rather he believes that he is God. The river is mine, I have made it. In other words, this is my river, this is my land, these are my people, I am the one in charge, I am the one in control, and I am the primary authority. God is going to respond to him by saying, I'm going to show you just how little power you actually have. And so here in chapter 29, you're going to have this message to Pharaoh about his pride and how it is going to be removed from him. And he is not going to see any longer his own power and authority, but rather his kingdom is going to fall. As a matter of fact, in verses 19 and 20, God says, Therefore, thus says the Lord God, Surely I will give the land of Egypt to Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon. He shall take away her wealth, carry off her spoil, and remove her pillage, and that will be the wages for his army. I have given him the land of Egypt for his labor, because they worked for me, says the Lord God. This is going to come after Nebuchadnezzar has spent a number of years going up against the city of Tyre, which has been talked about in the previous chapters. But God says Nebuchadnezzar is going to defeat Egypt, and historically he will. But I want you to notice one other thing here in chapter 29. Chapter 29 begins in verse 1 with the statement, In the 10th year, in the 10th month, on the 12th day of the month. So he gives us a date for this first set of prophecies. And then in verse number 18, he gives us, or rather 17, he gives us another set of dates for this interlude at the end of the chapter. And these things are important to notice because it means they're not given at the same time, but they're recorded together later to help flesh out what it was that was said. In verse 17, he says, And it came to pass in the 27th year, in the first month, on the first day of the month, that the word of the Lord came to me. So there's actually going to be 17 years between the prophecy at the beginning of the chapter and the prophecy at the end of the chapter. They are recorded here together to help give you the full sense of what it was that God was talking about. And this seems to very much be the case because as you come into chapter 30, in the very next chapter, you jump all the way back to the 11th year of their captivity, the 11th year of Ezekiel's captivity. And so you're jumping back and forth a little bit, but you're not jumping back and forth randomly. There is a reason for the things being related to the way that they are. And it's because of the historical necessity of laying out the fulfillment and the means of how these things were going to take place as well. So just a little tidbit that's important for us to realize and to understand as we go through and read some of these texts is they're not all in chronological order. Many of them are, but you'll have these interludes that are brought in, and he tells us when the dates are for these different interludes within the mix of these things. So that's Ezekiel chapter 29. I know there's some other things that we could talk about, but for the sake of time, we won't this morning. Next time we will come back, and Lord willing, we will examine chapter 30. But until then, I hope you have a great day.